Welcome to Inspire, Ignite, Innovate Conversations That Count. Our panel discussion tonight is presented by sacredyou.love. And today our panel of 4 handpicked experts with special connections to joy and darkness were chosen because of their interest and expertise in what happens when people and communities experience challenge. And we all know that in the past few years, if not especially the past few months and days, people in different cultures all over the world are being challenged with finding joy in the darkness. And we're sharing another in the Life Affirmations series. Our topic tonight is called Birthing Joy Out of Darkness. And isn't darkness kind of scary deep? And where do we go to begin to find the joy ladder, to climb up out of that pit? Well, our experts will lead the way up and out. That's our intention tonight. So, is birthing joy out of darkness about finding positivity in even the most difficult situations? It's a thought. Or is it knowing that we have the power to choose to look on the brighter side of everything? Not always easy. And is there really a silver lining in every dark cloud? Well, right now we don't want to see too many dark clouds, but these aren't even our questions. So before we get to our questions, I want to introduce our experts who will be sharing their opinions on how we, all of us, can transform our struggles into sources of growth and strength, and ultimately give birth to joy that we can go back to over and over and over again when we need to. So let's meet our experts right now. I'm going to start with, I lost him. Oh, there you are. I can see you now. I'm going to start with Stuart. Stuart, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, well, morning, everybody. It's morning for me, not maybe for everybody in the world, but I'm in the south of China, which is same as Perth time zone. And I'm recognized for helping people break through the belief systems that keep them trapped. I could use a different word with BS, but I'll be polite today. And, connect to that possibilities and that potential we all have inside us. But quite often we forget about it because of the societal conditioning, circumstances, etc., etc. So that's basically what I do. And there's no greater reward than seeing that smile on someone's face when they connect to that inner potential and understand that they always have this beautiful choice of how they proceed.
I love that, Stuart. Thank you. It really does. It really does fit in with our topic of joy and darkness, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, in some ways.
It does. It really does. Oh, thank you. Ali Perry-Davies, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Sue. And hi, everyone. My name is Ali, and I am from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Like most of us, I suppose I do several things. Of late, I am an author. I wrote a book called The Art of Healing Trauma, Finding Joy. Interestingly enough, finding joy through creativity, spirituality, and forgiveness. And where I go into that, I have a podcast, and my podcast is called Find Your Joy. And it is all about amazing, resilient human beings that find joy in the midst of some very dark times. And I'm really excited because I just now have a collection of children's books coming out called the Don't Be Scared, Be Prepared series, or collection. And it's all about just that, helping kids to understand that they don't need to be afraid, that they can be prepared, they can prepare themselves. And it's all about empowering them. And that's a lot about what I do.
Resilience. I love it. Thank you very much. And resilience is such a part of finding our way out of darkness. Thank you. We've got some amazing experts, and we're only halfway through. Marina Shakour Haber. Have I pronounced that correctly, I hope?
Absolutely, close? Yes.
Okay.
No, very good, very good. Thank you so much. Good evening. Where I am, it's evening. I'm in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. That's where I live right now. And I'm an author. I wrote my book, Your GPS to Happiness. Yes, another one in the joy or happiness are pretty much the same or similar. I'm also a coach, and I have am certified in hypnotherapy and with a combination of NLP. I love doing that because I find with hypnotherapy, we get to a level of consciousness, a deeper level, wherein we find solutions rather than stirring up in the muck and always go through the trauma and the problems over and over again. I'd rather focus on finding solutions and happiness and joy. In other words, I'd rather help my clients to see that light at the end of the tunnel, see that they can get there, and be joyous in this moment, right here, right now, no matter what the circumstances are. And for many, many people, circumstances are dire. So with that in mind, I am very happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
And we are thrilled to have you. Thank you. Donna Maltz, you're up. Tell us a little bit about you.
I'm so excited to be here.
Your sound is a little bit on the low side. Can you?
How's that?
You're sounding as if you're in a tunnel, very far away.
Oh boy. How's that?
You know what? Don't panic on this one. Just what we will do is see if you can get, if your husband is good at fixing this stuff, see if you can get him to do that. And then we'll come back and introduce you as we get to the first question.
Yeah, let me try this real quick.
I'm going to ask you to do that. Mute yourself in the meantime, and we will start with the first question. And I'll ask you to comment on it at the end. Okay? Okay. So we're going to move on to our first question. And the first question is, and I kind of like this one very much. Joy and darkness are polar opposites. So dark night of the soul is a popular phrase. It's tossed around everywhere and people kind of hang all kinds of stuff onto it. When you think of the proverbial dark night of the soul, do you in any way envision joy playing a role in a spiritual or spirit soul experience of polar opposites, like joy and happiness? So dark night of the soul, joy and happiness. How do they play a role in either moving in one direction, up towards joy, or down towards darkness? Who'd like to start with the first answer? First comment. Dark night of the soul. Ah, Allie, go ahead.
Stuart, you go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that, Ali. I just clicked the same time as you. Well, for me, I've never heard the phrase dark night of the soul before, so I don't know if it's so popular or I've been living in somewhere else. But, you know, I think it also goes, this question goes back to a statement you made in your introduction about look on the brighter side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an overused cliche, and it's often used at the wrong time in our period of darkness. Because I think that there is a mourning period, shall we say, that we have to go through and experience whatever that trauma is in a certain way before we're ready to start looking for an answer. Because when we're locked into that situation, we're blind to everything else. We're just so focused on it. So we have to be respectful if we're an outsider, that person may need to go through part of that journey, and we can be there for them. And when we see they're ready, then we can start to help them to discover the joy.
Lovely.
So that's my take on it.
I like the way that you actually phrase that, which is as people go through that dark period, whatever that dark period is, we as specialists, as experts, as coaches, as leaders, we just need to hold the space for them and be there ready for them when they are ready to find that first step up that ladder on that first piece of joy that opens up the rest of the way up and out. Stuart, that was a beautiful way to start it. Thank you so much. Before I go on to our next speaker, I'd like to welcome somebody in our audience, Armani McAfee. Welcome, and we are so glad to see you on our Zoom. If you have any questions and you feel like coming on camera, raise a finger, and we'll be happy to take your question at the exactly right moment. Okay, Allie, you're up next. dark
Thanks
night
so
of the
much, and
soul, joy,
how they all blend together or don't.
or don't. Yeah.
or don't. Sometimes I think about the dark night of the soul, and I think of and where joy has an opportunity to sort of peek in or show up. And I think of something like in the middle of winter. I live in Canada. Victoria is a pretty warm place, but sometimes you'll see a flower in the middle of snow. A little flower peeks up. And how did that get there? How did that make it? That's not supposed to be there for months, but there it is. It's peeking through. And sometimes I find that joy can be like that flower in the snowfield. It can peek up. And that's one of the ways, I think, in terms of very much agreeing with what Stuart had said. I remembered once our grandson actually was in finals in baseball. He made it to the finals. There was 2 teams and his team lost. So he got silver. That's fabulous, but he didn't get gold. And in the moment, when I went to console him, I won't forget this, because my son's an athlete too, and he got it and I didn't, because when, they were obviously very disappointed. And I said, Cassius, it's okay. Like, you have silver. Like, how many people ever get silver? And my son said, Mom, don't let him just feel the loss. Let him feel the loss. And then we can congratulate him that he got the silver. And I never forgot that. And I've carried that forward in my practice. It was a huge moment for me. And so, echoing exactly what Stuart had said and what my son said, sometimes we just need to feel the loss and let someone just stand with us, hold space.
So would you describe that as being the first rung on the ladder of climbing up out of the dark place?
That's a great question. I think that possibly I might have thought that it was. I think they may have recognized it an earlier rung. But for me, I think I did. But I find things like the flower in the snow, an unexpected giggle at a funeral, remembering something funny. Like, these are ways that joy gets to sneak in and remind us, just remind us that there is still hope and there is still laughter and joy and things to look forward to. And some of those things have been, for me, my first rung in a ladder, holding in a giggle at a funeral, because I remembered a story about me and the person who had just passed.
Right.
It's
a hand
up.
I love the way that everybody is bringing in beautiful human experiences. And that's what we need to hear, is the human experiences. Donna, is your microphone working now?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Lovely. Okay.
Cool. I'll just do a real short, brief intro, everybody.
Real short. And then we're going to get into the question.
Yeah. I am Donna Maltz, and I am a soul-to-soul coach and a certified health coach. I've written several books on what we're this discussion, and I happen to live on the big island of Hawaii, where I am looking at Maui right now, where people are rising out of the ashes, literally rising like the phoenix. And I am already helping a lot of people who are living at the dark night of the soul. And I really appreciate what I'm just having to, sorry. But the last gal just said, I was just trying to fix my technology. I'm sorry, but it's so beautiful. It's so true. Like, you have to sit with it. Everybody has their own time, but will rise when they're ready, and to acknowledge the pain and the suffering and the sadness and the loss of the lives that we still don't even know how many lives have been lost over there in Lahaina, and all of the theories around why the fire started and all this other kind of ugliness, dark side of the soul is coming out, where the blame game happens. And I think that that's what's so important about this conversation that we're having, because it's who we are as people and how we approach a situation that determines the outcome of our lives. And not only when our lives are full of joy and hope and promise and honesty and integrity compassion, then we spread that like a wildfire. We rise like a phoenix. But when we're sitting in sadness and pity and crying, which yes, must feel for a certain amount of time, where does that leave us? It leaves us in the dark night of the soul. And that is a scary place to live. So one of the things that I'm super excited, and then I'll end here because we'll learn more about what I do, but I'm working on finishing a book called Death, What Is It Good For? And the tagline is absolutely something. And it's kind of like what we're talking about, this dark night of the soul, and all of this is just like, yeah, let's get through it. Because, you know, it's scary. When we're fearful of something, life is scary. But when we accept and we acknowledge and we allow ourselves to evolve, wow, there's the joy, there's the challenge, there's the delight. And I am so excited for the next question. So
thank you so much, Donna.
Yes.
I think that you gave us exactly what we needed at this moment for us now to go to Marina, who's going to give us the next rung on that ladder.
Well, like Stuart, I had to consult Professor Google to really get a clear understanding of the dark night of the soul. Once I got it, this is what I saw. We cannot get to the day without going through the night. There's no way. There's no way that you get to the light without going through the darkness, or to joy without experiencing some sense of, let's call it, discomfort. The difference enters the way we see the night, the way we perceive the challenge, the way what we make of it. We can make it darker or we can make it lighter. But what I have read, master upon master, has told us that these dark times are upon us, that it is truly a karmic experience that we're going through. The earth is really in pain, and we are experiencing it through these horrible, really tragic and karmic events that we're experiencing. And it is part of our way to make a decision. Which side are we on, up or down? And through our own changing of our vibrations and our energy, we can change what is by not joining the muck, the dark side, the heaviness, the weight, by not adding more to it, but rather than rising up. And it may seem contradictory that we stay optimistic and hopeful and positive in hard times, because it is so much more logical to feel the pain, but it does not help the situation if we add more heaviness to the darkness and to the heaviness. So in these times, it is really a must for us to choose the higher side and the higher energies, the higher realms.
Brilliant. That was exactly what we needed to finish this piece of that question, because you brought us full circle, and that's what we needed to hear. Thank you so much. My next question is, actually, it relates very much to what Marina just said. So I'd like you to think for a moment about a newborn baby. And as that baby has needs, and it only has bad times when it's uncomfortable or in danger or in lack, right? And when a baby is happy, it's joyful without ever having gone through a dark night of the soul. A baby can be joyful without having experienced adversity. It doesn't remember its birth pains. It doesn't remember having been in the womb with whatever happened there. It only knows that it's been brought out into our light, our environment, and it can find joy in the simplest things, even a funny little noise. So if a baby can find joy without having, and I'm not challenging you, Marina, because I know for a fact that if we don't go through challenge, we don't appreciate the light, right? But from the other perspective, if a baby can be born with natural joy without having experienced adversity and darkness of the soul and being challenged in its identity, what happens to humans? So here's my question, okay? What's your personal opinion on the necessity of humans needing to experience darkness because before they can evolve to find joy as the pathway up and out? Could they, and here's a few hints, could they instead birth resilience or logic or determination, which are all other forms of joy, but in a more logical perspective, okay, to find their way up and out of the darkness? So question is, do humans really need to experience darkness before they can evolve? Or can they choose to evolve from wherever they are without having gone through extreme darkness, resilience, logic, determination? Who am I going to start with? I think I'm going to start with Marina. I'm going to let you continue on from where you started.
Well, thank you. So here's my response. Birthing is challenging also for the baby. It's not that easy. It is a small space to get through. So there has to be a little level, some level, let's put it that way, of a resistance. Because through resistance, we show who we are. We become who we are. I mean, the diamond does not shine as bright unless you crack its shell. It's just, it's part of that. But I'm coming back to our attitude as we go through these events in our lives. I have seen people that take the mildest event and they balloon it as if other people had horrible events. And it's just the way what we make of the events that we're going through. We all must go through these. And resilience, logic, strength, inner strength, inner resources is what we find. I went through many such situations in my life, and I could have thrown the towel, but instead, I found something that was my greatest gift ever. And that's the connection to our higher source, that power that can come through you, and that I don't think I would have found it, and I wouldn't have looked if anything was hunky-dory from day one. And I was going, oh, this is so boring. Let's see what we do. So I think it's a package, our attitude, our inner strength, and the challenges. Without them, we can't shine.
Beautiful.
Think.
I think that's a great place for the rest of us to start off from. Ali, you're nodding your head. Would you like to go next?
Sure. I was just really, I'm always enjoying what Marina says. Yeah, I was thinking it's interesting. I was remembering now the question when you brought up, I love that you brought up the analogy of the baby, because now I'm remembering that when I read that question, when we first got them, I thought to myself, but a baby who giggles with glee, what is it actually experienced? And I think for me, I would rather not say I have an opinion either way. The question was actually what our opinion was. And I think that opinion would be, for me personally, too strong a term. I don't think I have an opinion. I have some hopes. I have some imaginations and ideas. One of the things that I find right now, I think that our culture and this time on the earth, we're kind of in a place where tragedy and people with tragic stories, it can be exaggerated and idolized a bit. And it can be, if you watch whatever show that you want to watch, where there's going to be there'd be some form of reality to it, before that person comes out, there is usually a backstory, and it's always horrible. There's just this horrible backstory. And here's my concern about that, is that I think that in a way we can set ourselves up to think that somehow the larger the tragedy, the better that person is, and the more more, I'm forgetting the word right now, but that they are worthy of whatever wonderful thing would happen to them. And I guess that I'm of the opinion that we're all worthy of having wonderful, magical, incredible things happen. And yes, there will be some darkness, and that can sometimes inspire us or set us in a different trajectory. That can be something beyond what we ever dreamt possible. I'm not sure that I think that it necessarily must happen. I think that what's mostly important is that if and when it happens, where we go from there. And I think that if I have an opinion at all, that would be what it is. Not that it must happen for us to bloom, rather that we always have that opportunity. I had an opportunity, like any of us, before whatever tragedies have come upon me, when I've gone in a different direction. I could have always made that choice before.
Right.
The other thing spurred me on to that. So I don't know. I hope that answers the question, but that's
It
sort of where
does.
it came to me. Yeah.
It does. It really, really does. I'm going to go to Donna, and then I'm going to go to Stuart, if that's okay. Yeah? Okay. Go ahead,
That's
Donna.
great. Yeah, I'm trying to dig deep on what this opinion, what is it that you're really trying to pull out, this idea for me. I just love the comments that both Ali and Marina just said, and it just flooded in a lot of things that I would love to elaborate on. But time tells me that, a baby is born in darkness, and we are born in this womb, in this dark place, and we are also, depending on our beliefs, and this may be challenging this subject, but what is our karma and where were we before we were born? Not all babies are born giggly and happy. A lot of them are born tragically in a very bad situation, in a very sad, sour womb. So where do we go from accepting that we're all individuals, we're all unique, we're all going to approach these dynamic situations in a different response? But one thing I know for sure for me, and when I'm working with people and when I'm helping people get out of the dark night of the soul place, is first of all, we have choices, and it's your choice what you do with your blessed life. And that isn't always the case too. Like when someone's running from a fire, that might not be their choice to do that. So compassion is such an important word. And I think a lot of adults will put a facade on, like they're giggling and happy, and really there may be something behind that veil that we're not allowing them to express. I mean, there is, we could say this is a really hard time and really tragic. And like what Ali was saying, people are these backstories and they have these stories, right? We can rewrite our stories for one thing, but look at the Dark Ages. That went on for hundreds of years. When we look at people who were in concentration camps and who are right now, I mean, we have a different level of like how we're spoiled. Like when you go back and you look at the times 100 years ago, or even in the inner city where you're living right now, I mean, what is darkness? What is this that we're trying to grapple with, that this life is so hard right now? We're living in this terrible time in history, and the climate change and fires and catastrophic, because the media is feeding all of us a story.
So really what we're really talking about here then is the culture of the people that are going through whatever's going on. It could be different in different cultures. And as you say, different periods of time have fostered different ways of looking at adversity and the awful things that happen. So I think you brought
things in perspectives. We need to put things in perspective, and just, if we're here, all of us on this conversation, we have the opportunity, and that's why we're all in the business that we are, is to spread joy and to spread love. But is this really the worst time in history? Is this really the hardest time? For some, yes, but for others not. And it's our responsibility, and we have the ability to transform, to transcend, to bring the good karma forward. And that's the bulk of what the challenge I think we're all striving to achieve right now, is how do we bring that joy out in every moment, no matter how hard a situation is? How can
I
we
think-
find positivity?
I think that you have brought us right to the pinnacle, so that Stuart can now carry the conversation. And I appreciate the way that you did that. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Stuart.
Yeah, I think everything boils down to one word, and that's choice. We always have a choice how we react to whatever. And for many people, darkness is a choice that they make, whether it's conscious or unconscious. It's a choice that they make, and they continue to go there until something triggers a different set of choices in their mind. And I've lived in some of the remotest parts of Africa where people have nothing. They struggle to get food, and I've never seen such happy people in my life. They are some of the most happy people in the world, and they've got nothing in our terms.
Right.
But they're not focused on anything else. They're focused on that joy of being alive. And I think that's something that we forget. And yeah, the media and all the other nonsense that's going on in the world, but it's not a new thing. I mean, if you think back into not too long ago in China, public executions, the death of 1,000 cuts, and then all the nonsense that was going on in the Middle Ages in Europe, where people were watching and having picnic lunches at public hangings and things like that. We have this tendency to veer towards the negative side, towards the darkness, because I think in some way unconsciously it makes us feel relieved it's not happening to us, so we can find some way of making a little bit of joy out of it. And again, it goes down to that word choice. And yeah, there are times when we need to maybe not wallow, but dwell in the darkness, because that is a time maybe for us to settle and to start unconsciously taking on lessons and process things. And then when we choose to move on, we're armed with that understanding, even again, if it's not at a conscious level at the moment.
I love the way you summed all of that up. And just because you did, that whole idea of choice, choosing whether or not we are going to land in joy or land in the darkness and wallow for as long as we need to wallow, or until somebody shakes us out of it. But choice really is the pivotal piece. If you think of a balance scale and the little thing that it balances on, you've got joy on one side and darkness on the other, and challenge and adversity and resilience and all that. But what Stuart's saying is so true, is that point that it all balances on is choice. Thank you.
We
And
may
Stuart,
not recognize that.
we don't, because sometimes culturally, we are informed of our basic decisions, the ones we don't have to think too hard about, because of the culture that we live in. So if our culture, like you said, Stuart, is that group of people in Africa who lived for the joy of living, then their culture says, doesn't matter what happens, we're going to find the joy, and we're going to get through this, and we're all going to do it together, and we're going to be joyful. Whereas someplace else, some other countries where they have a very negative take on life, that everything is going to end up in that deep dark barrel, that culture is going to automatically go to the dark first, and then some enlightened souls are going to be looking for a way to drag themselves up and pull everybody else up with them. So every single one of your perspectives gave us a piece of that, which I think is amazing. Our next question, I'm going to ask Stuart to start with that one, if you don't mind, Stuart. So you actually led us to the next question, segue, and you started it. But I'm going to ask you to go a little bit deeper with your comments. What's your best advice to anyone who's experienced what seemed to them like a hopeless challenge? And as somebody else said, I think it was Marina, a simple challenge can be the most awful thing to some person, where the most awful challenge could be a simple thing to another. So what's your best advice? And I'm going
Well,
to
I
ask
think the first
everybody
thing
this.
is to be respectful of the person and meet them where they are. And, you know, not talk down to them, say, look, you're overreacting, or this and this, because this is a lot what a lot of people do. They tell us, because in their mind, there's a simple solution, but they're not trapped in that world of darkness, if you like. And, you know, it's very important to step outside ourselves and meet the people where they are. And then you can have that conversation with them, and then you can just ask them, so what can we do? And then find ways to guide them into possibility, because they're not seeing possibility, they're seeing limitation. And you know, Marina, she's a hypnotherapist, I'm also a hypnotherapist, and we use a term called trance of infinite possibilities, and that's where we want people to get into. But I think for most people, they're in a trance of limited possibility, and we've got to break them out of that and then move them into that world where there's so many different possibilities, and then we can pick one and that's, you know, feels comfortable and help them to guide them through. But we can't do that unless we meet them where they are, because then we're not talking their language.
You have to be talking the same language before people can hear you.
Yeah.
So meet them where they are, be compassionate, be non-judgmental, let them be where they are, and then ask them, so what can we do about this? And then take them from wherever they are at that point, guide them through next questions. And this doesn't just go for therapists. This goes for the general audience that's going to be watching this live or on a replay. And I think that is the simplest advice that any person anywhere with any life experience could very easily follow. Thank you, Stuart. Great start to that list of what can we do to help somebody, or best advice we can give to anyone who seems to be experiencing what looks like a hopeless challenge. Donna, I'm going to ask you, now we're looking for what's the best advice to get them out of that place.
It's kind of the 3 words or 4 words. How can I help? I think a lot of people would love to hear that, and especially people who are in a really dark place. And I've noticed when I ask that simple question, how can I help? Sometimes they just say, just listen, or just be here, or I don't need help right now. And sometimes that's the best thing you can do, is just leave somebody to their own accord. My coaching business is Your Choice to Change. And so it's a choice also when you ask someone if they need help. It's a choice they can make, because when somebody's not ready, they're not ready. They're on that razor's edge, and the best thing you can just do is show your support and your love, and be calm, and be the change. Like Gandhi said, be the change you want to be in the world, and radiate that, because people read energy. People feel your vibration. And if you're sincere and you ask that question, how can I help? And I love what Stuart said, meeting people where they're at. And at the same time, we want to make sure that we, as human beings, sometimes, I don't know if this has happened to, I'm sure a lot of people, when you sometimes meet someone where they're at, you can go to the dark side of the soul yourself. So we must be very self-care, self-worth, self-love. If we're going to put in our position, ourselves in a position where we can ask, how can we help someone find these choices who are on the razor's edge? We got to make sure that we don't go into the darkness. And that is a really, really important part of this whole piece, because a lot of this energy that we're feeling in this vortex of negativity and darkness is like a sink tank, and it can really draw us in if we're not strong ourselves. So we must be in a position to make sure that we can help and we
Beautiful.
are helpful.
I'm so glad that you brought that up for the hand holders and the caregivers and the therapists, and all those people. We experts need to know this, but we also need for the other people who are our audience to understand that as they take the hand of another person, they also have to be careful that they don't get drawn in. So thank you very much. Allie, I'm going to come to you next. Best advice.
It's interesting. I was thinking about best advice suggests to me that I would be speaking. And I think mostly I want to listen. I want to listen. I want to understand. And if I'm speaking, I want to ask some questions, because I don't want to imagine that I know what someone is feeling or processing, or what exactly it means to them when they are processing a really dark time. And like anyone else who's been doing this type of thing for decades, I've had many opportunities to make mistakes in this area, to imagine that I knew what was happening for someone, and then speak those words out. And it wasn't where they were at all. And so the first thing for me I've learned is to listen. And when I do ask questions, it's important, I think, to ask it in such a way that a person, when your raw underbelly is showing and you're feeling really vulnerable, and someone asks a question that feels to us like it should be so obvious, it's important that we ask that question correctly, very gently. So I know how I might feel if this was me, but I don't know how you feel or what you're processing. So some clarification, giving them space, and then really offering, the only thing that's important to me is the offering of hope is, this is where you are, this is where you're at. Now imagine for a moment where you want to be. And then what are the steps that we could take to get there? And if right now, the only step that you can take is to hold on to your chair so you don't fall off the planet, because that's how it feels, that's okay. I'll just sit with you and I can hold on to you in the chair too. But it's an invitation, the invitation to hope, the invitation to imagine. That's where
I love that. I love that. I love the way all these pieces are falling together. And it's interesting that nobody is repeating anybody else. Each one is a rung, another rung on that ladder to climb up out of that pit. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Allie. Marina, we come to you. Best advice.
I have to piggyback on Stuart, and he spoke about choices. Now, hopelessness is created because we either see no choices or no good choices. And when we are hopeless, it's also a reflection of an impoverished reality. We have a very impoverished reality. We don't see anything good that has happened to us. We make pretty much back to the blackness, you're making everything dark. So my suggestion is, what I would be doing with a client who would present with such an issue that they're very hopeless, I would go back and look at, let's say, 3 or 5 negative events in their life, not traumatic, you're looking at negative events. Then I would have them dissociate, step away from it, put it way out there, white it out, and swoosh, put it away. Then go back, bring up 3 to 5 good events, magnify them, make the colors bright and rich and the sounds really positive and loud and happy and the feelings really good. And those become now the foundation of where we are, where they are right now. And upon this foundation, they have a much richer reality upon which they can build a far better future because they see possibility and opportunity. It is again a way of changing the perspective and seeing the good that has happened to us, which brings us hope and returns us to seeing the challenge as, oh, I got that. I did that before and I did well.
Yes, 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 and yes. Oh, I think our watchers, our viewers are getting a very rich manual for how to manage their own feelings, whatever they're going through right now. I think that's brilliant and wonderful. So many different perspectives. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Donna. Armani, do you have any questions?
I actually don't. I'm just taking in everything. It's been like an eye opener. And so I felt like I was going through a very stressful period in my life. So it's been great to hear you all talk about like tips and like things to motivate me to be on a better path, a lighter path.
Fabulous. Oh, we love hearing that. We know we did good in the world tonight, ladies and gent. I love it. Thank you, Armani.
No worries.
And please do join us the next time we have another panel discussion. It doesn't have to be one of mine. It could be any of them because they're all amazing.
I think I have one scheduled tomorrow.
Good. I might be talking on that one. I'm not sure. I think I am. I might be a panelist. Okay. So it's time now for our panelists to tell us a tiny bit more about yourself and what special offer you would like to bring to our viewers on the replay or live. What special offer are you bringing? Stuart, would you like to start?
Yeah, I mean, this might sound a little bit conceited, but my special offer is myself. And what I bring is an ability to hear. I've been introduced on a different panel discussion as an amazing listener. People who I talk to, they say you're talking to my soul very, very often. So I have this, ability to really hear what people are experiencing, and then from there we can have that discussion. So the best way is to get in contact with me and just, we can get on a call and we can just have a conversation. There's no obligation, just a conversation. And a problem shared is a, problem halved or, quartered or whatever you want to talk to say. But it is about finding someone who can listen to you. And that's what one of my big skills is. So that's what I bring to the table.
Lovely. So everybody listening, if you have resonated with whatever Stuart is saying, do not hesitate. His information will be in the comments after our conversation has ended. So you can find them there at any time under this conversation. Contact information, where you can reach him. I'm sure there's a calendar link. I see it just popped in. Okay, it's there. And Stuart Elliott is also one of our tribal leaders in Sacred You, I believe. And
yeah,
you
my
are,
show
would you like to just introduce your...
Yeah, my show is supposed to run at 9 o'clock today, but it's going to be 15 minutes late because of this panel discussion.
Ooh,
and it's
okay.
about breaking through those BS barriers. So give people time to have a quick drink after this and that, and then I'll be going live at 9 o'clock or 9:15 today, but it's every Thursday at 9 a.m. Perth time, Hong Kong time.
Fantastic. Armani, you might want to listen in. Don't leave. He'll be back. Okay. Ali, what are you offering us tonight?
Hi. Well, the same as Stuart. I'm offering them an hour with Stuart. No. I've spent time with him. It's really fabulous. Much the same. I'm offering to spend some time with me, an hour of a Zoom call, and we can chat. There's a number of things that I do through that, and whether that's creative play or meditation and sound therapies, listening, having a conversation, that's what I would like to offer.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Donna, what are you offering us tonight?
Oh, well, I first I want to say, Sue, thank you so much for this discussion. It was great. And I do want to offer something, but I also want to leave the audience with a real gold nugget that I feel is so important, whether you're on the dark or the light side right now in your life, is to remember that without light, there's no darkness. Without darkness, there is no light. And 80% of all life lives beneath our feet, deep in the rich, loamy soil or beneath the ocean floor. That is where life is, and it's in the darkness. And it continues. And then when we think about the womb, that is where growth is. In the darkness of the sea is where our food grows. And where in the darkness of the soil is where all the millions and trillions and billions of microorganisms are. That is, the darkness is bringing out the light and the love. And I am just so excited to continue this conversation with anybody who wants to. And my website is in the chat. And on my website, you'll be able to see what I do. I have freebies there, but I urge and encourage everybody who would like to pursue a conversation to sign up for a consultation with me on the house, and just share some love and light. And every week I do a live broadcast called A Dose of Positivity. And it's a place where I interview change makers, thought leaders, and health professionals who put social and environmental justice at the forefront of their endeavors. And a dose of positivity is something we could all use. It's better than a spoonful of sugar. And I encourage you all and welcome you to come listen to the show. So anyway, and Sue's going to be a guest eventually, right? Well,
eventually, yes. Yes, I will. I absolutely will. I love being on podcasts.
And you're just a terrific host, and I want to thank you so much. You're wearing black and white with rose-colored glasses. So it's that choice that we get to make, right? I love that you've got the black and white, and I got my rose-colored glasses, and I got gray on. Isn't that? Yeah. And it's so interesting. I want this backdrop that I have. If you could see it. It's basically the topic we're talking about. There's a skeleton in the corner, and then the third eye, and then it shows the mushroom and the life coming into the sun. And it's beautiful.
It's lovely.
Beautiful.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And now it's time for us to go to Marina. And Marina is going to tell us what she has on offer for all of our watchers, all of our viewers.
Thank you, Sue. And thank you for this wonderful podcast. I'd like to remind everyone that we are light. We are all light. So let's remember that in really dark times, you are the light. What do I offer? Like everyone else, you get an hour with me, and I will give you a free consult. And if it would call for a quick trance session, I will absolutely do that. So that's my offer. And that's about it.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you. I'm Sue Rumack. I am the overwhelm strategist, the empath brain retrainer. Excuse me. And like all of us here, I've been a coach, a life coach for about 16 years. And I've gone through many different stages as a coach, bringing highly sensitive entrepreneurs from overwhelm and verging on burnout into that place where they've taken back their power and they are in the light, and living that really wonderful, enthusiastic, empowered life. Like everybody here as well, I'm also offering a 1-hour consultation. It's your next steps life blueprint. And you end up with an MP3 replay and a highlights, a written next step strategy highlights document as well, which you can either use with me or with another coach who may be in different alignment with you. We talk about divorce identity. We talk about overwhelm strategies. We talk about life coaching in general, where you're stuck with your career. So we cover many different strategies, but it's all based on managing overwhelm and getting back into empowerment. So I'm Sue Rumack. My information is, it's in there now. I'm also a I'm also a tribal host with Sacred You, and we are life force activators. We meet every second Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. 8:30 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time, because I'm in Toronto, Canada. I'm a Canadian as well, Ali. And or 10:30 a.m. AEST, and then everything in between. So that's enough about me. I'd like to call on Sophia if she wouldn't mind coming in to talk to us about sacredyou.love. I'm beginning to lose my voice a little bit.
You are, and thank you, Sue. Thank you so much for what a wonderful panel. I've been sitting here putting everyone's links in the comments and have really enjoyed everyone's comments, everyone's wisdom, everything that you've been sharing, and also Amani, thank you for joining us. So Sacred You, which is everything we offer, so much stuff on spiritual, holistic, and well-being. We are a global community that you can come and join us. We run panel discussions, about 2 panel discussions each week. The next one that is coming up is actually facilitated by our wonderful Stuart. And that's coming up in 4 days' time. That is How Does One Listen? I'm looking forward to that. That's on Monday lunchtime, our time, here in Australia, Sunday night for everyone in the US. And as well as our panel discussions, we have over 30 tribes, special interest tribes, including Sue's Life Force Facilitators and Stuart's Breaking Through the BS Barriers, and so much more. Do click on all the links that will be in the comments very, very soon. Come and join us just for $1 Australian. You get 2 weeks to try out all our tribes and everything else that we offer. And then after that, it's only $15 Australian a month. So do click on these links, and also click on the links of these beautiful panelists. They've just taken an hour out of their time to share all this wisdom and what they're passionate about. So I would just like to honour everyone and thank Amani for joining us. Do stick around very soon if you have any questions, and everyone else, click on those links and come back in 4 days' time for our next panel. Thank you. All good? Thank you, Sue.
All good.
Thank you, Sue.
It's my pleasure.
No problem.